Hey, what's going on, everybody? And welcome to episode number 8 of the Therapy Couch podcast. I am your host, TJ Jones. Happy to be with you. Happy Friday to you. Because that's where we're recording this episode on a Friday. For those that may not know what the Therapy Couch podcast is, this is a podcast where we talk about life. We talk about certain situations that are going on in the world at large, and we also try to break things down, right? First off, before I get started, man, I have to say, I've been reading Stephen A. Smith book that just came out called Straight Shooter. I know some of you probably heard about it. Stephen A. Smith has been making his rounds. As of right now, he's a New York Times bestseller. And I have to admit, man, that's a really good book. Now, I'm not through with it just yet. I'm in the middle of it, but I have to say, man, Stephen A. Smith wrote himself a classic right there, man. I learned a lot about him, and I find myself being motivated by some of the things that he actually endured in his life. And it also makes me understand like how he's the way that he is. You know, he went through a lot of things throughout his young life, his teenage life. You know, between he had a little bit of I guess a frustrating relationship, I guess, between him and his dad, and also kind of caused him to be the person that he is today. But it's a good book, man, and I have been enjoying reading Stephen A. Smith's book. So I encourage everybody to kind of check it out. Secondly, it's been a pretty interesting week, man. Some of you probably know, I was invited to go to the Senior Bowl. This is one of my first times as a media personality to be able to go somewhere like this. I'm excited about it. I worked my whole entire life for a moment like this. And anybody that's kind of seen my podcasting / broadcasting journey, you will understand like some of the things that I've been through in order for me to get to this point. And it's been a lot of hard work and a lot of doors shut in my face, a lot of no's in order for me to get here. When, I got that invitation, everything just kind of came full circle from the time when I was actually doing podcasting in my closet, to kind of keep out the background noise. I thought about that from the time I didn't have any type of equipment, broadcasting equipment to even do a podcast. My earlier days of actually starting my podcast, The State of the Saints, it was actually me using my iPhone in my closet, recording the content, and then using my computer to create a slideshow and adding, to the content that I'm creating. And I went from that to shouts out to my former station manager here at WLGI, Mr. Greg Kent. He actually believed in me, and I got an interesting story that I want to tell. And I think I might say that for another day because it's the time I almost got fired from WLGI. I'll keep that for another episode. But he ended up, believing in me. He seen that I was really passionate about broadcasting, really passionate about podcasting, and he gave me my first webcam. Actually, the webcam that I'm actually, for those that can see me right now. This is the webcam that Mr. Greg Kent gave me in order for me to start doing live streaming from my house and other places to help my podcast to grow. But fast forward, like we're going into like year 6 of doing the State of the Saints podcast. And, I got an opportunity to go to the Senior Bowl on next week. And I'm excited about that. It's not easy, doing what I do, but I love doing it. And it's something that I always wanted to do my entire life. That's what we're going to be talking about here today. I want to talk about dreams. I think we all have dreams, right? Some of us have big dreams. Some of us have little dreams. Big dreams, probably something that is going to be obtainable and it's going to be down the line. And then you have like your smaller dreams, like things that you want to do to be able to capture the day, right? Things you probably wake up in the morning and say, man, I got to do this. I got to do that. Or, I have aspirations to try to get this done, like, man, I hope that I can get this done. But dreams are important. Dreams are important. And it's very important for you to never stop dreaming. And there are going to be times in your life in which you're going to feel like your dream is, nothing more than a nightmare, because it's a nightmare because you feel like you're never going to be able to, get to that dream. And it could be like obstacles that get in your way, such as money, opportunities to do it, family, what have you. It's always going to be something that's going to permit you from actually doing it. And there were times where, I felt like my dreams were never going to be a reality. I'm still aspiring to do what I want to do. I'm constantly growing. I'm not where I want to be, of course. But there are times where, it feels like your dreams are never going to be able to come true. I think about from time to time, like, what would have happened if I would have stayed, in Mississippi? I've talked about that on the first episode of the Therapy Couch. What would have happened if I would have stayed in Mississippi? Like, if I would have not been as fearless as I became. And honestly, if I think about it, I wasn't very fearless. I was coming off a really bad breakup. I was heartbroken. And I was like borderline, like, I don't want to say I was on the verge of a nervous breakdown, but I kind of was. And I almost had like this reckless approach to my life. But the recklessness kind of caused me to make this decision, even though it probably was, in God's plan, for me to feel like, oh, like, I ain't got nothing else to do. Let me go ahead and just get away from everything. It started off me removing myself from familiar territory and kind of branching out and recreating myself. But it turned into an opportunity for me to actually achieve said dream. Because if I didn't, then I probably would have been around there, probably still doing podcasting without the right equipment. Probably, wouldn't have been. I definitely wouldn't been doing broadcasting on a daily basis, and I probably would have just looked at it as just a dream that I had that never would have happened. But it's important for you to believe in your dream, and you have to believe in your dream so much that no matter what happens in your life, you still have enough faith and enough hope to keep believing in a dream. Because sometimes where we go wrong when it comes to dreams, we want other people to buy into the dream that we have. We want people to buy into what we're doing. Like when we have this great idea, it's a great idea in our mind, right? You're telling your family members, you're telling your boyfriend, you're telling your girlfriend, you're telling your husband, you're telling your wife, you're telling them like, man, I got this great idea, and you're all excited about it, and you expect for them to have the same level of enthusiasm, and they don't. You ever been there? Like you had a really good idea, or you had a really good plan, and you're like, man, I'm telling you, it's going to work. And then all of a sudden, you find yourself being discouraged because the enthusiasm that you expected from others didn't happen. And I'm saying this because nobody is going to believe in your dream like you. Nobody is going to see the world the way you see it. I used this example the other day when I was talking about, music, right? What we do here at WLGI, shouts out to our music, production manager, Mr. Ernie Hilton. What he does is he selects certain music. He listens to music like all day, right? And he selects the right music. And we were talking about how music can sometimes be subjective, right? It's like a painting, right? If I take you to a museum, an art museum, we all go. Let's go. Jerry going, Barbara going, Ricky going. Like let's go to the museum, all right? And we see this painting on the wall, and we're looking at it. And I asked Barbara, like, Barbara, what you think about this painting? Barbara would give me one interpretation. Jerry would give me another interpretation. Ricky would give me another interpretation. I would have a different interpretation, right? What I'm saying is when it comes to your dreams, you're going to have a different interpretation. Some people would have an interpretation like, what I'm saying? Let's see where this goes. But to you, what I'm saying? This might be the best painting ever. So that's why I say everybody is not going to be able to buy into your dreams. So you have to have enough hope and enough confidence within yourself to not allow others to discourage you. Because if you are not careful, you'll find yourself, crumbling up and throwing in a trash a really good idea that can affect your life. When I was, doing broadcasting, I mean, shouts out to my uncle. I'm not going to say which one, but I used to go to church every Sunday at home, and I'll be talking to, my family and stuff like that. And I'm like, I started my own podcast, I'm doing broadcasting thing and all that kind of stuff. And the next thing came out of his mouth was, how much you getting paid to do it? And I was just thinking about like, well, I'm not getting paid anything. I just, I want to start this podcast and it can grow and be something special. But at that particular time, I was looking for validation from other people and it discouraged me, right? And I'm thinking, well, maybe it is a waste of my time because I love broadcasting. I love doing podcasting, but I'm not getting paid for it. So what's the point of even doing this? You see what I'm saying? Like if you allow people to get into your mind to tell you, hey, how much you getting paid to do this? Oh man, you doing it for free. Ain't nobody listening to this. If you start buying into like that mind frame, then you're never going to get to where you need to be. You got to have that level of confidence. And I kind of laughed it off. And, the only thing that kind of probably prohibit me from not like just wrapping everything up and just quitting is the fact that I just had the passion to do what I wanted to do, which was broadcasting. And I lost that passion, not so much because, I didn't want to do it anymore. It was the question of why I was doing it, right? I told you, like, when I moved from Mississippi to South Carolina, I was heartbroken. And I was probably, like I said, I probably was having a nervous breakdown. I don't know. But I stopped doing it because I was wondering to myself, why did I want to do it? Why? Like, was I doing this because I wanted to get the attention from other people? Or did I feel like I had something to say? And the thing that helped me was I asked myself this question. If I never, ever got paid to do what I'm doing, would I still do it? And my answer was yes. Like broadcasting is like the air I breathe, the water that I drink. I love doing it. And I don't care about, getting paid to do it. Even though, at the same time, when I had the conversation with my uncle, it wasn't so much about me getting paid. It was more so like, it's a waste of your time. That's what the interpretation was to me. But of course, I understood that it wasn't a waste of my time. Your dream to others may seem like a waste of time because they don't understand the end game. They don't understand the end game. No matter what it is, no matter if you're trying to start a business, no matter if you're trying to do something to better yourself, don't listen to the white noise because your family, unfortunately, may be the last people to buy in. Not to say that, that their family won't, believe in you and what you're trying to do, but your homeboys, your homegirl, your family may be the last ones to buy in, and it's no fault of theirs. It's because they only kind of can see you for just who you are, right? So when you out here trying to do something, they like, okay, they have a wait and see approach, and it's not their fault, so it's best for you to have that type of willpower where you listen to people, but don't allow it to affect you psychologically, because you're going to mess around and not achieve what you want to achieve. Another thing about dreams, the door is being shut in your face. People ask me all the time, right? TJ, man, you got such and such on the podcast, man. How you do this? There's been a lot of no's, man. There's been a lot of no's for me to actually, get certain people on the show. I've heard no. And you're going to have doors slam in your face at times. When you hear no, don't just listen and register the word no. Envision not right now, right? Envision not right now. And that's not an indictment on you. Now, when I used to hear the word no, when I was asking people and I was writing emails about coming on to the show and people was like, no, I don't think so. I don't think this is the right time. I was taking it personal. Like, what's wrong with me? Maybe they saw something that I did and maybe they just don't want to be here. Or it was just the fact of, it's just not in the plans right now. you got to constantly build, you got to constantly grow, and you cannot take no for an answer, right? It may take a little bit of a revisement, but that doesn't mean that that's the ultimate door. Like, doors are going to shut up in your face when you're trying to build something, when you're trying to grow something. You're going to have those doors shut up in your face. But you got to have the confidence in yourself to know that, you know, your time is going to come. You know, so don't allow some no's and some missed opportunities, or not even missed opportunities, but some people that's not ready to buy into what you're doing prohibit you from moving forward. Because I'm telling you, I've heard a lot of no's in my lifetime, and I'm going to continue to hear no's. But you got to have like this fearless spirit. You know, you can't be like, well, I look at this person right here, man. Look at it. They're on this show, they're on that show, you know, and you look at yourself and you compare yourself to other people. Like, why not you? Like, when you say, why me? Why not you? Right? If you feel like you have the drive, if you feel like you have the determination, how can anybody stop you? You know, how can anybody stop you from moving forward? They can't. You know, I don't look at myself as a wordsmith or anything like that. But if you ask me, I feel like I'm one of the best podcasters out there. Why? Because I believe in myself. And you have to have this level of belief in yourself. You know, you got to have that. You know, like, some people say when they doing these documentaries on themselves, they like, man, I knew I was a star before anybody else saw that. Or their family members be like, yeah, they used to carry themselves a certain way. You have to believe in yourself. Like, how can anybody else believe in you if you don't believe in yourself? If you don't believe in yourself, how can anybody else believe in you? If you walk around with your head down or you second guessing yourself, other people are going to second guess you. Because more times than not, if people feel like you don't have the confidence in yourself, they're not going to have the confidence in you. You can't expect people to have the confidence in you that you should have in yourself. Dreams are hard to build, and it might take a lot of sacrifices. And, you know, it might take a lot of tears being shed too. But you have to believe in yourself. You have to know what your purpose is. You got to walk in your purpose. You know, most of the time, if I'm reaching out to somebody, sometimes I can get a little nervous. Or, you know, sometimes, you know, I could second guess myself. But that's not going to get me where I want to be. And it's not going to get you where you want to be. Don't be afraid to fail either. Now, and there's been different ventures that that I've failed in. I told you, like, if you've been following the podcast or been following me for a while, man, I can't tell you how many podcast ideas that I had, right? I can't tell you like how many things that I tried to create, and people like, man, you sure you wanted to do that? I don't think that was a smart idea, but I wouldn't take it back because it's going to involve sacrifice. You know, sometimes it's going to have to be restructuring or revising of ideas, but you can't be afraid to fail. Like I said, that door shut in your face, that doesn't mean no, that means not right now. Or, you know, you have to figure out what's really important to you. When in your dream, don't allow another person's dream to come into yours, right? You know, like, if you ever watch the show or something like that, and they have like these crazy like parody episodes of dreams, and somebody else step into the dream, and you're like, man, what are you doing here? You know, like that's kind of what it is. Like, you need to stay focused on your dream, not looking at anybody else's dreams, not looking at what anybody else is doing. One thing that I try not to do, like I got love and you know, and I support every podcast out there. But one thing that I try not to do before I like get on, I don't listen to anybody else, like, because I don't want their words or their point of view to kind of, you know, get into mine. And I find myself regurgitating what somebody else says. Yeah, if you're looking at what somebody else is doing, you're like, man, that might work for me. I don't think that's a good idea. You need to stay focused on the prize. Now, there's some people that give you like some good advice. Like, they'll give you good advice about like how to present yourself, how to keep the energy up. All that stuff is important. And I definitely want to do a podcast on that one day. But you also have to stay true to yourself. When you start looking at how somebody else sounds and you start trying to sound like them, or if you see they're doing something that works for them and you try to do that, that's not your dream, that's somebody else's, right? And you may find yourself later on not being happy with the results. You know, I told people before, when I first started out doing podcasting, I was on this show called Real Talk No BS. Shouts out to my guy Joseph Hamilton and my guy James Harris. Like, we were going to broadcasting school together, American Broadcasting School out in Arlington, Texas. And, you know, they started the podcast. They asked me to come on there. I went on there one episode. And, you know, this was during the time when the Breakfast Club first came out. And everybody knew, like, Charlamagne the God, like, when he first, like, got on there, everybody knew how much of a controversial figure he was and just saying all off the wall stuff. And I found myself trying to be like him, like mimicking like his you know, like his personality. And I started to do that. But in the process, it was one time, like it was episode and I was just on there and I was talking. And I mean, I was just using like all type of profanity and stuff like that. And I don't know, man, I didn't tell my mom to watch it or anything like that, but she ended up stumbling over it. I don't know if it was the fact that I actually shared it and went live, but she ended up like calling me after the show. She ended up calling me after the show and she was like, "That's not you." And she was like, I don't know what that was, but that wasn't you. That's not who you are. And at first I was mad. I'm like, man, I'm doing something, you know, people like liking this, you know, side of me and stuff like that. And I'm like, and I was excited. But when I thought about it, I had to think about, am I really this person? And can I really maintain this energy? Can I really maintain it? Like, can I continue to be this? And to be honest with you, I can't. I can't because I'm being somebody else. See, the idea may work for a while, but eventually you're going to find yourself not liking who you are in the mirror because you're not yourself. You ever like did something for so long, you have to look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, man, that ain't me. Like, what, man, what is going on? I don't know what it is. Like, it can be tolerating something for too long or being at a job too long, right? You know, like, man, I'm better than this. You know, like I'm coming to work, I'm frustrated, I'm angry, I don't want to be here. And, you know, like you look at yourself in the mirror, like, man, what have I become? Like, I became a slave for a paycheck. You know, like I became a parody of myself. And that's what it was. And I decided not to go that route. I don't feel like it's a coincidence that when I finally became myself, you know, which is TJ Jones, the State of Saints podcaster, that I really start to feel comfortable within myself. Because when people see me, I'm being my authentic, real self. When you want people to see you, you want them to see your authentic, real self. That's why I say, you look at people and you look at them and you're like, man, I can do that too. And you probably can. But will you be happy 2 years down the line, 3 years down the line? You probably won't be, because the world is not getting the real you, right? They're getting someone else. So when you're following your dream, make sure that when you find that end game, that it involves happiness mentally, emotionally, and all that. Because if you don't, then I'm telling you, you're not going to like what you see in the mirror. You're not going to like what you see in the mirror. And don't, like I said, don't be afraid to listen to other people's advice from time to time. You know, one thing that you want to do, like I say, you want to be able to polish your craft. You want to be able to, you know, be the better version. You also want to be able to do research, right? No matter if you're trying to start a business or what have you. You always want to see what other people are doing, and you want to see how you can separate yourself from that. Like, how can I be different? You know, how can I stay true to myself and I can be different from someone else? And also the level to I can be comfortable and be happy at what I'm doing. So you always should want to do research and see what other people are doing. so you can stay as authentic and true to yourself as you possibly can. And the most important thing is, once again, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to lose. Don't be afraid to step outside the box. Don't be afraid to not listen to the people that may be the most important people to you in the world. Because once again, people are not going to understand your dreams like you will. There are people out there going to be like, man, you're wasting your time. You know, that's what I said about, you know, I don't want to say my uncle said I was wasting my time, but they'll give you, you know, if you listen to them, they will make you feel like you're wasting your time. Don't ever be afraid to make that sacrifice, you know, for your dreams in order for that dream to become a reality. Now I'm gonna read some of y'all comments, man, and feel free to look. You can ask me any question. All right, you ask me any question that involves, you know, dreams or comments, or feel free to do so. All right. Barbara says, when I was young, I wanted to be an astronaut. Was told I could be a teacher, nurse, or maid. Ended up becoming a nurse and hated the compromises I had to make to stay employed. Gave it up in 2014. Barbara, that is something that, man, I was talking to my cousin. Shouts out to my cousin JT, if you're watching this, man. We was talking last night, and I was telling him about, you know, when I moved to South Carolina. And I'll tell y'all the story. Like, I started off as a store manager, right? I was a store manager for, I'd say, about 13, 14 years of my life. Like, I had like 2 different jobs. First, I worked at CVS, and then I worked at a retail store called Fred's, right? So Fred's was one of the reasons why I ended up coming down here in South Carolina. I was living in Mississippi. I was staying in Vicksburg at the time. And I was working in a small town called Rolling Fork, Mississippi. Like, it's probably maybe 45 minutes from Vicksburg. But I was working out there, and, you know, I got an opportunity to go from Mississippi to a town called Johnsonville, South Carolina, to manage a store in Johnsonville. So I ended up moving out there. Of course, like I said, keep in mind what I said at the top of the show. I was upset. I was depressed, borderline, you know, was having a, you know, nervous breakdown. So I ended up moving out here anyway. And I moved and found like a little double wide little trailer, like a whole bunch of space that I was renting from this guy. And I mean, it was beautiful out there. All was out there was just me and my thoughts, but I loved it, you know. And I ended up coming out there, and, you know, I love the people that I work with at the store, but I wasn't happy at just being a store manager, because when I started to figure out that I really wanted to do broadcasting and all the stars aligned for me to do broadcasting, and by that, I mean, when I was working at a store, it was around the Christmas holiday, and we got these Bluetooth speakers during a delivery, right? And we put one out as a display. Some of y'all probably heard this story before, but I tell it for other people that didn't hear it. There was some Bluetooth speakers that we put out, and it had like radio capability. You can turn to a radio station. So my assistant at the time, coworker, shout out to Brenna. I asked her, I was like, man, this station right here jamming, man. I said, what station is this? And she told me, she was like, it's 90.9 FM. She was like, I don't think it's that far from where you are. So I was like, man, okay. And I don't know, man. I wasn't doing any podcasts, and I wasn't doing any like radio stuff at the time, but it was just, you know, like when you're into something, right? Even though you might like pull away from it, it'll bring you like right back into it, right? It'll bring you like right back into it. So when I start listening to music, I start, you know, thinking about that, all those dreams and aspirations about broadcasting like came back. And so I looked them up, and, you know, I found the address, and I ended up calling a guy I mentioned earlier in the show, Mr. Ernie Hilton. And I told him that, you know, I was interested in, you know, coming over and volunteering. I said I wasn't looking for money or anything like that. I said, I just want to see what, you know, just do, you know, work in radio. I said, and he was like, well, you can come over. So I ended up coming over, and I'm driving. I'm all in the woods and stuff like that, because that's where the station is. And I ended up coming here talking to him and our former general manager, Mr. Greg Kent. And I talked to him, I end up like, volunteering. I was doing what you call voice tracks. So basically, so they gave me like a late night show that was overnight from like 12 to 2 or something like that. And I got in my car and I put my address in the GPS and I looked, and lo and behold, I was 4 minutes away from that double wide trailer that I was renting. So I was like, that is like, you ain't about to tell me that wasn't destiny. You're not about to tell me that God did not have a plan for me to be in broadcasting. Like, what are the odds of that? I had no interest in doing broadcasting anymore. I wasn't even looking at it. My coworker found that station, and it's 4 minutes away from where I was staying at the time. Right. So, but I'm saying that to say this. When I decided to start to get into broadcasting it, and I started realizing why I was falling in love with it, and it wasn't just because I can be seen or I would to get attention or whatever like that. It was what I wanted to do. And Fred's went out of business. Like a year and maybe a year and a half into me moving to South Carolina, it went out of business. And I had opportunities to go to other retail stores. I got opportunities. Like, they wanted to hire me. And they were like, well, all you got to do is just sign this paper here and you can start. And it was something about it. I just could not pull the trigger. I couldn't pull the trigger. I could not get another job like that. And, I told my girlfriend, who is now my wife, I was telling her, I said, if I step back into this, I will never get out of it. I told her that. I said, if I step into it, I will never get out of it. Sometimes, man, I'm telling you, sometimes God have plans that be right in our face, and he gives us choices. He gives us choices. We can go with the familiar territory, or we can walk into our purpose. I had a choice, and I decided to walk into my purpose. And it was tough. I'm telling you, it was tough, because at the time, I went from making a salary from being a store manager to being a part-time radio person. And you getting paid hourly. You know what I'm saying? It was part-time. And I wasn't exactly doing full-time just yet. So your boy was struggling. It was struggling. It was tough. Right. That's how I know my wife loved me, man. Cause I'm like, man, we didn't set him many times on the couch, you know what I'm saying? Because we couldn't go out different places. That's what, man, when people say, man, when I say I love my wife, right? Because, man, she seen me at my worst, right? So, but I had a choice once again. I can go over here, do something that I didn't want to do, wasn't happy about, or I can walk into my purpose. I decided to walk into my purpose, and when I did, everything just started falling in line. That part-time job became full-time. Right. And the opportunity, from starting as a broadcasting tech, now y'all see where I'm at right now. Right. So sometimes, like you got to be able to bet on yourself. Goes back to that. Sometimes you got to bet on yourself. Now, I'm not saying be crazy. Like I actually had there's some things in life you have to do. All right. I understand that, but this was before the time Paxton was born and stuff like that. Maybe if, Paxton wasn't born, I don't know what would have happened. So I probably still would be trying to do that, but I would be understanding. But there are times in your life in which you have to walk into your purpose, and God gives you those choices. And sometimes, we may go the other way because we're afraid. That's why you got to have a fearless spirit. You got to be fearless. You have to be fearless in this world, because there's going to come a time when you're going to have to be courageous, and there won't be no time for you to be afraid. You got to walk in your purpose. If you don't hear anything that I say on this episode, walk in your purpose. Like that, sometimes that blessing, that breakthrough is right in your face. And sometimes we reject that breakthrough because it may cause us to have to work a little bit. But when we work through that situation, we'll come out. We'll come out looking like gold, man. Remember that. Don't ever be afraid to take that chance. Don't ever, if the opportunity presents itself and it's right in your face. And like I said, I just feel like that was destiny. I feel like sometimes when we pull away from God's plan, sometimes I feel like he brings us right back into it. And I think that's what it was. I almost gave up, but he was like, I think he kind of, saved me in that regards, because he was like, man, you about to do something stupid, so let me intervene. And here I am today. Say, TJ, it's like having a joke you've been working on and can't wait to make people laugh, all to hear crickets in the end. Well, look, it don't mean that the joke ain't funny. It just means that the people that you're presenting the joke to don't get it. You feel what I'm saying? Like that's what I'm talking about, being subjective, right? Some people are going to understand the dream and the vision that you have, and they're gonna be your rooting corner. They're gonna root. They're gonna be cheering for you. They're gonna be looking at you like, man, you can do it. And then you got other people over here like, I don't know about that, man. That's gonna take too long. You sure you want to do that, man? Think about what you got to do. You got to pay for this, that, and the third. People just don't understand it. Like I said, it's almost like since we talk a comedian telling jokes at a comedy club and telling jokes like at a college, at a college concert or something like that, right? Like you hear those comedians at time, they say they have like completely different material for college crowds, right? Because when they go to these college shows, you got a bunch of kids, you got guys up in there, that just want to heckle the guy because they want to impress the girl next to him. They want to make her laugh. It's just the crowd, right? So you have to come there with some different type of material versus if you go to like, a Netflix special or, the local Laugh Factory, it's going to be different. So don't mean that the joke ain't funny. It just means that some people ain't getting it. Maybe the room that you're in, the people don't get it. So maybe you need to go and work on that same material, use that same material elsewhere. Like I said, that don't mean that the jokes ain't funny. It just means that people don't get it. I mean, some people not gonna get you. That's just what it is. That don't mean that you're not talented. That don't mean that you're not gifted. That don't mean that you're not walking in your purpose. People don't get it. Like I said, it goes back to the conversation that I had with my uncle. He asked me how much was I getting paid, because he, and it's no fault of his, because mostly when people start talking about creating a lane for themselves, they have to start with some type of monetary gain. If it doesn't have any type of monetary gain when you're first coming out, then all of a sudden it's not a good idea. But that doesn't mean that, right? Some people are just not going to see that, man. And sometimes you might need to change the room in order for people to see the gifts that you have. I've been there before, trying to mimic who I like, not realizing that being myself 24/7 is better than being someone else 24/7. You're not going to like who you are. I'm serious. Like, it might work and people might like what you're doing, but when you have expectations and that you are better than what you're actually presenting, it hurt. Like, it's almost like if you do something in a dominant fashion, right? It might be dominating, but you like, I could have done better. I could have did that. Like, you're not going to like it because it's not authentically you. You're not being your authentic self. It's like, okay, so I went to Dillard my freshman year, and Dillard University is out there in New Orleans, HBCU, and I took this golf class, and my instructor's name was Coach Jordan, and he used to, every now and then he teach about golf and all that kind of stuff. He was the first African American to play in a PGA Tour match in New Orleans. Like, he's a legend like that. But he will often say this quote. He says, "If you always tell the truth, you never have to remember what you said." I took it a little deeper. If you always tell the truth, you never have to forget who you are. If you're lying to yourself constantly, over and over again, you're not going to be happy with the results. Like, you ain't gotta hate who you are if you're being yourself. If you are loving yourself, if you're being yourself, no matter what you're doing, if you're staying true to yourself, nobody can knock you off your stoop. Nobody can tell you who you're not, right? If these are your real authentic feelings, or these your real authentic views, or you're really being yourself, how can anybody stop you from being that? Right? So if you're staying true to yourself, you never have to forget who you are. If you have to remember who you are, you're probably not going in the right direction. Also, get comfortable with being uncomfortable when going after your dreams. Yeah, I mean, if you're too comfortable, then it's probably time to shake things up, right? It's just what it is. Like there's a difference between finding a lane and maintain, and finding a lane and just being content with it. You have to think about it, what you're doing, right? If your business, your clientele is growing with you, right? If you're doing podcasting like me or broadcasting, like your audience is growing with you. So if you don't grow, if you don't develop, how can anybody else do it? If your business doesn't grow and it just doesn't like move past that particular spot, how can anybody else like grow? Or how can you give them another experience that they probably won't even be accustomed to? So sometimes you have to get away from unfamiliar, uncomfortable. You got to get into uncomfortable territory. And that's fine, but it makes you stronger and you really figure out what you're made of. Remember that. Remember that, man. Let's see. Success is a hater's kryptonite. Yeah, I mean, look, and Slim, it's not all. It ain't even just about money. What is success to you? Like, some people feel like the ultimate goal is to attain a bunch of money, and that symbolizes success. Well, I can give you a bunch of individuals throughout the course of time that made a bunch of money that's no longer with us because money don't always generate happiness. How many stars have we seen that had the world on a string and they no longer with us? I think about that all the time. Like the guy who choose to travel around the world. I think Dave Chappelle even made I don't want to say he made a joke, but he mentioned this in one of his comedy specials. It was the guy from CNN. He traveled around the world, like seeing all these beautiful places, like eating all these great cuisines. And the man killed himself in a hotel in Paris. Right? And people want like, oh, man, whoa, you know what I'm saying? Like, man, this dude had like one of the greatest jobs in the world and he's no longer with us. Like, how did that happen? Like, how does, a guy like, I think about the legendary Robin Williams, how many times he made us laugh and all the jokes that he told and all the movies, how he made us happy. I can remember like watching Robin Williams like play Mrs. Doubtfire and Flubber and all these other different, Patch Adams, all these different movies, how he just made people feel. And, he felt like he had nothing to live for. It's not always about monetary gain. What is success to you? Success can be you're having a happy family, a wife that loves you, a husband that loves you, some kids that love you, family members that love you, to be able to call up your family members and say, hey, how you doing? Everybody doing okay? And get a laugh or two. Success ain't always got to have an end game that results in a lot of money, because it's not going to bring you happiness. Now, it maybe give you things that you want, but at the end of the day, if you're not happy inside, I don't care what type of money you're making. There's not a dollar amount in the world that can, that can make you happy and give you that level of love for yourself. Like there's not an amount of money that can do that. I thought about this all the time. Everybody had those moments, right? You want to be rich, you want to be successful, rich and famous and all that. But, then I thought about it. I don't care. Like, I want to be successful. Don't get me wrong. Like, I want to be successful. I want to be, I don't shy away from anybody saying this. I want to be one of the best podcasters in the world. I don't shy away from that, but I don't want to do it so I can just make a whole bunch of money. I want to do it so I can be able to take care of my family. I don't care. Like, at this point, like, if you would have called me in my 20s, when them new Jordans coming out, they coming out on Black Friday. Okay, I was there. Shouts out to my boy Mike Wall. Okay, my homeboy Mike Wall might like be the only person I know that like J's and be in that line on Black Friday before me. But I was the one like, man, where the shoes at? Where the clothes at? That was me, right? You know what I'm saying? I always, bought a new hat from Lids. But now it's like, I'd rather see my son out here, you know what I'm saying, with some Fred J's on, a nice haircut. You know, I'd rather have my wife out here, you know what I'm saying, like being able to take us certain places that she want to go. Like that's what my mind frame is. You know, like that's my idea of true happiness right there. Being able to take care of my wife and my son and have them have a smile on their face and be proud of the man that I am. Right? Podcasting to me, you know what I'm saying? That like I just that's just something that I want to do. But I want to be able to do what I do, and I want to be able to be the man that I know I can be for my family. That's the most important thing to me. Man, you're about to make me tear up. Ray, man, I ain't trying to make nobody tear up, you know, but I mean, it's just the truth. You know, it's just the truth. TJ spitting some deep facts. Well, I appreciate it, man. Like I said, I hope everybody enjoying the podcast so far, man. Bruh, hit the like button. Thank you, man. Appreciate that. If you like the show, hit the like button. The way I see, success is simply achieving a goal you mapped out for yourself. Yeah, I mean, that is the true definition of success. But also understand that goals can sometimes change. And you can have this thing mapped out, but sometimes things come along that may kind of steer you in the wrong direction, or there's some things that can come along that cause you to adjust. You know, what is your end game? Look, we all if you've been alive long enough, you've seen the transition of society from, you know, monetary standpoint, technological standpoint. Like we all been there, right? So you got to be able to adapt to it. I mean, but you also have to appreciate the end game is important. The end game is important, but you also got to be able to enjoy the ride too. You know, I used this example on a show a couple episodes ago. I said, sometimes my wife drives the car, right? You know, like if I can drive, like she gonna get on the passenger side more times than not. But there are times where she'll drive and, you know, we'll go through the same spots. And I'll be looking around and I'm like, man, I didn't realize that building was there. And I didn't realize that pine was there. Like, what I'm saying is, on the road to success, enjoy the scenery before you get there, right? Because the scenery symbolizes your story, your struggle, right? Your like that's the thing that you overcome in order for you to get to this point. I don't feel like when people start like reaching like certain plateaus, but they're not having an appreciation from where they came from, I think they're missing the whole point. Like if you end up being better, if you look back right now, let's look back right now. If you're a better person today at this point, at this time, then you already achieved something special. You know, because some people just look at what they don't have, but they don't realize where they came from is much, you know, I don't say much worse, but they're in a better spot today than they were on yesterday. But I don't think people have an appreciation for that. You got to be able to enjoy the ride. The ride represents your testimony. Your ride represents the story that you're going to tell to possibly motivate or inspire somebody else. So enjoy it. I think what people do is when they're not on a certain level, we find ourselves looking at other people, what level they're on, and we compare ourselves to them. You know, that's why, you know, when we talk about social media is a blessing as well as a curse, right? It's a blessing because, you know, I can interact with people all the time, right? And be able to have conversations with people that I probably would never meet. That's the plus. But the negative is we find ourselves putting our own lives up against people's highlights, right? We looking at people, you know, taking pictures of they at the beach or they at the club and they got a cup in their hand and they seem like they living out their life. Meanwhile, I'm watching this at home, right? I probably spent the $200 that I had probably on a light bill because You know, I had to run that heater a little bit longer this time around, and I can't go out this month, right? But we're putting ourselves up against other people's highlights, and we can't do that. But we have to understand that, you know, I may not be out here because that $200 I spent, I just paid that bill. Heck, you know what I'm saying? There was a time when I couldn't even pay this bill. That's levels, right? And it's only, you know, a little short, little, you know, bump in the road. But you have to have an appreciation for it. Once again, riding in a car of life, look around, enjoy the scenery on your way to your destination. I mean, you're gonna have an appreciation for it. Like you mess around and miss out on some beautiful things by just staying focused on just, you know, what's going forward, like getting to the destination, right? You can't run your life like you always late for work. You know, sometimes you got to run your life like it's a Sunday stroll. You know, people talk about a Sunday stroll. You riding in your car, the sun shining, you're on the road. You got your family in the back seat. You got your wife or your husband on the other side, and you riding, you cruising, right? You know, that's kind of like how you got to be sometimes. You got to enjoy the ride. Let's see. The way I already read that. Money is just a part of it, TJ. I just care more about the passion of doing something I love. Slim, if you have passion, everything else is going to fall in line. I mean, because your passion is something that you're going to have to lean on during tough times. Your passion is something that is going to like keep you up at night and answer the question when you're talking to yourself, like, why am I doing this? Right? Your passion is something that is going to, you know, when people don't understand you, be like, you know what I'm saying? You'll see when I'm done. Right? You know, you got to be that guy at the gas station selling his CDs for $5 because he know eventually one day he going to get on. Right? I mean, everybody been there. The guy at the gas station, hey, man, you know, I'm selling my CD out here. You know, if you give me like $5, you got to have that mentality. Like, yeah, people just see this guy at the gas station, but guess what? One day people are going to be like, man, I remember when that dude was selling the CDs at the gas station, right? That's that man's scenery, right? That gas station represents his scenery on the way to his destination. Like, you got to have that type of drive because, once again, your passion is the thing that's going to keep you going when people do not understand what you're trying to do. Your passion is going to like keep you motivated because sometimes your passion is the only thing that you have to keep you going. Especially like when you know, sacrificing something that probably will be, you know, give you some level of comfort at that particular time. You negate that to focus on your passion. That's true. I grossed $308,000 and my wife didn't like the fact the job kept me away from home half the month. Well, Ray, I'll tell you this. You know, money is important. I'm not going to lie to you. Money is indeed important, but your family is even more important because you can't be so driven by money to a point where you just forget about why you're doing this. And I think sometimes people like make that mistake. Like, you're so focused on trying to get to the bag that you're not realizing the motivation behind the bag, right? You know, you got to keep your family happy. You got to keep them, you know, you got to keep them happy, right? And I don't care how much money you bringing in. There's no substitution for time. Like, that's one thing that I pay attention to, you know, as a dad. Like, y'all see, for some of you, you know, that check out the podcast, The State of the Saints, y'all know that my son Paxton, there are times where I do my podcast and he's right there with me. Y'all probably will hear him like in the background, rather he have his tablet on, or, you know, he probably wants to come sit on my lap and, you know, yell, "Who dat?" You know what I'm saying? As he say the "Who dat" show, as he as he dubbed the State of the Saints podcast. But, you know, that time right there, you know, I know eventually when he gets older, he'll appreciate that, you know, and I never take that for granted. That's why, you know, you see these kids sometime and they're like, you know, their parents like, man, I did this to you. I gave you a car, you know, I sent you to private school and all this. And they turn around and say, but you never gave me you. That's all I wanted. All I wanted to do was spend time with you. Like, you can, like, money, like I said, is important, but these, like, the kids need you. You know, your kids need you. Your family needs you. Like, they need to know that they're important sometimes. That's why, you know, some, like, there are times where things can be going on that requires maybe me stepping, you know, to, you know, a webcam and talking on a mic. But if I'm, you know, watching TV with my wife, or, you know, me and my son watching some Cocomelon or something like that, you know, I'm not going to step away from that, because I know that we're creating these moments. So it's always important, man. Like, money, once again, is important, but never forget that motivation. Like, your family should be your motivation. So, and I understand where your wife is coming from. Joe Horn, the best barbecue sauce I ever tasted. No lie, try. Ah, man, shouts out to Joe Horn. I'm gonna have to try this Joe Horn barbecue sauce everybody talking about. I might have to try this. Let me see. Out here in Decatur, merchandising had to show love to TJ, the host. Yeah, appreciate that, man. Appreciate that, Jerry. Thank you, man. Thank you for being here, and much love to you, man. Shouts out to you. Thank you for being here. Yeah, man. Let's go ahead and switch gears for a second, man. Let's switch gears. Okay, we got Ray almost on the verge of tears. Let's talk about something that's interesting. This is something that's interesting to me because since like December, I've been on a little bit of this health kick, right? I've been going to I got a membership at Planet Fitness, right? Planet Fitness, reasonably priced, you know, like gym membership, $10 a month. You know, go up in there, you know, exercise, because, you know, it's important. You know, I'm a type 1 diabetic, so me staying active and exercising is extremely important to my health. But that's not what I want to talk about here. There's a phenomenon going on right now, and it involves the term gym creep, right? Now, a gym creep is, I guess, an individual that goes into the gym and ogles women, right? And you have all of these TikTok influencers, YouTube influencers, or whatever. They're getting their phones out and they're recording themselves working out. But better yet, you know, more than tell you about it, I'd rather show you. Check it out.
May I help you? Like, do we got a problem? You looking at me?
All right, so as y'all can see, there's been several videos like this, you know, going around, right? So I'm just wondering, man, like, is it really going on, or is it straight paranoia? And as a guy, like, oh, should we be concerned about this? Should we be concerned about going to the gym? Because sometimes, like, okay, I'm wondering to myself, like, me, I'm not on the phone like that while I'm at the gym. Like, the only way that I'm on the phone is if I'm on a treadmill, right? Because I'm just so focused on trying to get these reps in. I'm so focused on trying to get this set, trying to make sure that, you know, my mind is like straight, right? So at best, you know, I'm trying to flip to some songs or something like that on Apple Music. But the fact that you take a video camera, right, and record yourself, and it just seemed like to me, like, it's like you waiting to have a moment so you can spaz out. Like, I don't know, man. I don't know if it's ego or is it a legit thing. Like, sometimes I feel bad for guys sometimes. I'm sorry. I feel bad for my single guys. See, I'm married. I ain't got to have a problem. I ain't got to worry about, you know, like the energy or anything like that. Because sometimes I just feel like people can be overreacting. Like, if a guy, you know, comes over to him, I watch videos, and I'm talking about like kind of similar to this. Guys will walk over to a girl, like they'll have their phone, they'll be videotaping. A guy may just want to ask him a question, maybe like, are you using this weight or something like that? And they're like, no, get away from me, or something like that. I'm like, is it your ego, or is it like the guy just trying to be a creep? And even if, a guy wants to walk up to you and talk to you, that don't mean that he a creep. Like, whatever happened to the fact that maybe a guy may think that you're attractive, or may think that you look nice, or maybe wants to have a small conversation with you. Like, have I been out the game that long that I don't that people don't walk up to each other anymore and be like, hey, how you doing? Like what are you doing? Like, how long you been going to the gym? What have you? I just feel like people are so quick to try to have moments on social media. And I also have to wonder, like, it's just crazy to me how you videotape yourself to get attention, but you want to have a cause to pause when somebody give you attention. Like, that makes no sense. I can see, like, now if a guy is like being flagrantly disrespectful to you, like walking up to you, like kind of, getting close to you, you know what I'm saying, putting this, like his cell phone, you like that's way too far. But what I'm talking about is, like, who's to say that this dude is a creep? You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe the guy finds you attractive. Maybe, I'm just wondering, like, how do you deal with a situation like that today? Like, how can you walk up to somebody, introduce yourself, talk to them, make small talk? Like, maybe I'm old fashioned. Maybe people don't do these things anymore. Maybe people try to find, the person on social media and maybe slide into their DMs because, nobody really walk up to anybody anymore. But I just feel like, that's just straight up wrong. And in this video, I don't even know if the guy's actually doing this or not. Like, maybe it's just their pure paranoia. Because there was another video that I seen that a guy was just working out, and this girl, she was talking, and she basically psyched herself up to believe that this guy was some type of threat. Meanwhile, this dude was just in the back trying to do some sets. So I'm just wondering, like, why is it that people just feel like they're like everybody just wants to get at them? I ain't never been on that level. I ain't never just been so. Look, I don't think I'm a bad looking guy. I think I'm attractive. Don't get me wrong, but I ain't never just been in a position like, man, this girl really looking at me, man. Like, shoot, why she looking at me, man? I don't know. So how is it now? Like, so my guys out here that's not married, that's dating. Like, how do y'all deal with this? Because I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I've been married for going on 3 years. Like, been out the game for about 6. So I'm like, I mean, like, how do you deal with this situation? I'm just wondering, like, do y'all, like, based on the videos, have y'all seen these? And if so, like, how does that make you feel? And I don't want to get into, like, you have these conversations about, and I don't want to open up this can of worms, but I just have to say it because it's a topic of conversation. People are talking about people coming to the gym, wearing things they know that will garner them attention. And when they get attention, they get upset, right? You come up in there, with, a certain outfit on, and, you probably think that, what do you think guys are going to do? Like, that's just how it is since the beginning of time. Like, if a guy sees a woman that's attractive and she's dressed a certain way, she looks a certain way, or has a, a nice body, a nice, figure or something like that, or wearing something, like I said, that's really, really nice, they're going to look, like it just like with a guy. Like, I would think that if a woman sees an attractive guy, like clean cut guy, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can grow your beard out, got your Rick Ross going, you know what I'm saying? Lined up real nice. Like, I would assume that a woman would be looking at you as you attractive. So I don't know. Like, there's been conversations of that. Like, people coming in trying to garner attention and pretend like they don't. And, basically they're okay with the guy feeding their ego, but how they feed their ego is the guy talking to them and them rejecting the guy. So that just makes them like, hey, everybody wants me. Like, look at him. I can't even go to the gym. Well, I don't know. Like, do I feel like you need to be hassled at the gym? No, but whatever happened to a guy just want to walk up to a girl and just introduce themselves and, maybe just have some small talk. And if you're in a relationship or something like that, or you're not interested, you can easily just say that. I don't feel like guys should just be labeled as a creep. Like, I mean, I guess like when people go to the bar, like, does that make them a creep if a guy walks up to you? Like, that's a social setting, right? I mean, I feel like the gym is a social setting. It should be, right? I mean, sometimes like people create friendships in the gym. I remember when I was in Dallas and I used to work out at LA Fitness. I mean, I created friendships with the guys I was playing basketball with and working out with, right? Those are guys I was chilling and hanging out with. So I always just thought it was a social setting. I didn't feel like it was, any different. But let me read some of your comments. What y'all think about that? And like I said, I would love to hear from single guys out there. How do you deal with this, today? Like, is approaching a woman, is that like old fashioned now? I don't know. Say, bro, that's how it's been in there. It's crazy. I hate how girls stand in my mirror. Is 50-50. Okay. I'm gonna be real. Nowadays, modern females, you can't just approach them straight up. It's gotten toxic where their immature mentality I'm in my 20s saying this. Well, like I said, I don't know. Like I said, I've been married for 2.5 years. And during the time when I was, single, guys were walking up to girl. I feel like that old man, tell them stories about back in my day. But but seriously, man, like you can walk up to a woman and and talk to them, and if they're not interested, they'll be like, I got a boyfriend, or and I'm not really trying to talk to nobody right now, or the old line, you give me your number, like something like that. But it's not like to a point where I just walked up to like, get away from me, like what is going on here? Like I just feel like you're that full of yourself, like you just think that somebody just won't come over here. Yeah, but maybe because you feel like most of the time when guys are trying to get at you, they're getting at you for maybe nefarious reasons. I don't know. But there are some good guys out here in this world. Every guy is not going to just trying to just undress you with the eyes. Now, we all know, like, in order for you to walk up to a person and talk to them, they got to have some level of attraction to it. But I mean, everybody is not just out here just trying to be some type of creep. Maybe they probably find you attractive and they may be the person that you spend the rest of your life with. You never know. Some girls do this too much in the gym to be seen. That's my biggest issue. Like, you have your video camera. You got your video camera out. So you're basically doing this to get views, to get likes, to get attention, to get comments. So what's the difference? So if a guy is looking at you in the gym, what's the difference? I guess because you can't see the person that's watching you on their phone or on the computer screen. I mean, I just don't get it. Like you basically are videotaping yourself to get attention from somebody. It's not like you going home. It's very few people like going home like, okay, man, let me record myself in my form to make sure that I'm actually doing it the right way. So tomorrow I could have perfect form. No, you're not doing that for that. You're doing it to put it on your TikTok, to do it and put on your Twitter, to put on your social media in order for you to generate some level of attention and to generate comments. So, like I said, what's the difference? If a guy, is looking at you, one, they might realize, oh man, she got a camera. Or number two, they probably just, think that you're attractive. But that don't mean the guy's a creep. That just means that, he's a guy. Like that guys find women attractive. And women find guys attractive. I just don't know. Nowadays, you got to approach females online because the feminist wave got society bugging right now. Well, I feel like that's sad. I feel like that's sad, and I feel like that robs a generation of confidence. I feel like that's the biggest issue that we have when it comes to self-confidence. Like, I mean, I'm not trying to poo-poo on anybody's generation, but I really feel like them 80s babies was the last real true generation when it comes to like do or die. Like there was no other way around it. Like, and look, I'm not trying to insult anybody that's younger and that wasn't not an 80s baby. I even say an early 90s baby, like 1990, 91. I'm not trying to insult anybody. Hear me out when I say this. When I was growing up as a kid, there was no social media, right? There was no slide into the DMs. You had to have a level of confidence. If you wanted that girl phone number, you had to go up to her and talk to her. You had to, and then you had to come through correct, right? You had to have a paper and pen in hand, make sure in case you get that phone number. And it wasn't no, I like her. I'm a, I'm saying what her name is, asking a friend, what her name such, then looking her up and then sliding. Nah, it wasn't none of that, right? And then you had to go into the belly of the beast. Do you understand what I'm saying? And what I mean by the belly of the beast, you might be over there on one side of Blacktop. She over there with about 3-4 of her friends. So you have to walk up to her and walk into the belly of the beast with 4 friends basically looking you up and down, checking you out. And you better come correct. The lining better be straight. The shoes better be clean. All right. We wearing uniforms down there in New Orleans, so the uniform better not be wrinkled. You know what I'm saying? So you might want to just holler at her on a Monday because, mama washed your clothes that weekend. Around Friday, you got some dirt lines in that thing. You know what I'm saying? And hey, man, mama ain't trying to run that washing machine all week, right? We can't wash clothes every day. So you better come correct. So you walk into the belly of the beast, and if she didn't like you, then you had to turn around and be like, take that walk of shame. You know what I'm saying? And hope you got some strong homeboys to build up your confidence tomorrow or later on, for you to move on. But that's the generation. Now you don't have to worry about this. You don't have to worry about this. And I feel like that's one of the biggest issues when it comes to rejection. That's why you see when guys are getting rejected, like the situation that happened in the University of Alabama, right? This man on the strip yelling out the window, trying to talk to a girl. She rejects him. He turns around and shoots the girl and kill her. Like that's the fragile ego. And I feel like it's like that because you don't have to witness rejection. Like you don't like it in this day, you don't have to witness rejection, right? Rejection is like interpreted, what I'm saying? Interpretive rejection, right? Because if you're looking online, you're waiting for that person to respond and they're like, oh, what I'm saying? Well, I'm really not interested right now. So that leaves interpretation. Like, why is she not interested? Is it me? Is it because the way I look? Man, it's because that day I went to school, man, I my shirt wasn't clean, or I didn't have the best thing on. Like it leads you to interpretation and it leads you to your thoughts, right? Versus like when I was going to school, they ain't like you, they'll tell you why to your face, right? Nah, I'm not good. I got a boyfriend, like there was clean cut dry. So because you're sending DMs, because you're sending emails, because you're sending like virtual stuff, like it's not any verbal conversation that happened, and it's just basically your own interpretation as to why you got rejected. And that stuff kind of goes into your psyche and it affects you mentally down the line. That's why like a lot of these kids, the teenagers right now, they're dealing with depression and anxiety now because the way, society is set up right now. Like you had to be bold back in them days. And I'm not saying like you can't be bold now. I mean, there's levels to being bold now, but there are ways around it. Like there was no other way around it when I was a kid. There was no other way around it, folks. Like there was no social media, all right? But also it was a good thing because I was thinking about this, like when kids get into fights. Right. When we was getting in a fight, somebody won, somebody lost. Yeah. But it wasn't like a documentation, like somebody seeing you take that L every single day. Right. It's like kids can have you fighting and get beat up on your phone and they can watch it and over and over and over again. And you got millions of people watching it and millions of people interpreting that. So that can mess with you psychologically. So in some ways we did get off pretty easy because I mean, if it's Friday, that was most when the fights happen. Now that was mostly when the fights happened on Friday. They used to happen on Friday. Around Monday, nobody cared. Nobody like it happened over the weekend. People like, oh man, they fought. And then on Monday, we back to the regular schedule program. But it's like you can get your low lights documented. Like I said, those emails they stay in the air, right? those DMs, they stay there. You can delete them, but they were there. Videos. If somebody get their hands on it, they're in there forever. You get rejected back in the day, like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? You heard at the time, but, you know, maybe nobody saw that except for 4 friends, right? So let's scroll down a little bit. Thank y'all for being here. People have low social skills and face-to-face interactions due to long periods of time on the internet. Yeah, they don't know how to talk. They don't know how to talk anymore. Like most people, when they get dates, you know, when they go out for the first time, they both on their phone, you know, because they know how to present themselves in a virtual world, but they don't know how to present themselves in the actual world. So that's something that I feel like is becoming a lost art. You got to be able to interact with yourself. I mean, interact with other people. So, facts. I walk up in person to get to know a girl. I'm a boot boy with confidence. Yeah, look, you gotta have confidence. Like walking up to somebody, I don't feel like that's old fashioned. But like I said, I understand the world that we live in today. That's just the way that it is. I hear about what happened to that girl. Let's see. Attention is a hell of a drug to some women these days. I ain't just gonna even put women in that. I'm gonna put men in that too. Like men want attention, just as much attention as women. You know, like I feel like it's kind of like the same thing. Like we all like want levels of attention. My thing, what I have my biggest issue is when people basically use other people to boost their own ego. That's what I feel like. You do things because you know it's gonna give you attention, but you pretend like that's not what you're doing, and that's something I can't get down with. Like, you know what you're trying to do. Like, you know why you put that on. I'm just gonna say it. You know why you put that on. You know why you did what you did. But I just don't like when people just pretend like that. Oh, just because I have this on, like, but that's what you wanted to do. Like you wanted to get the attention, and you only wanted to get the attention to reject the guy. So you can have confidence in yourself to walk around and, you know, take pictures and stuff like that and feel confident about yourself. Like, oh, these guys want me. These guys want me. You know, like, I mean, what are you doing it for? Like, I just feel like you shouldn't need to put anybody else down or make somebody else feel bad in order to big up yourself. I feel like if you're doing that, then what are we doing as a world? What are we doing as a society? What are we doing that for? And if you're a guy, you're doing this, like guys will do that too. Like guys know that women find them attractive. You know, they'll do that to women too. They'll use them. And you know, like that ain't right. Like, I don't feel like you should big up yourself. Like, I don't care how you look or how many people give you attention. Like, you should never like make a person feel small to big up yourself. And you should never like just sit up here and just pretend like you didn't have these type of intentions and you did. I just feel like that's why we're in the state that we're in right now. I think a big factor is approaching a girl is how you represent yourself, groom yourself, get you some nice fragrance, dress nice, take care of your body, and that stuff boosts self-confidence. Yeah, you know, that is, you know, that does boost self-confidence, but at the same time, it shouldn't just be about that. You should have like a level of confidence, rather you are wearing the finest or smelling the finest, you know? But I just feel like it's a two-way street. It is a two-way street, you know, like you should have like a level of respect for yourself. And I feel like other people need to have respect for themselves as well as respect for the other person as well. You know, people need to learn to love and accept themselves first so they can give the proper love to someone else. Yeah. That's a really good point, because a lot of people react the way that they do because they don't have that level of love for themselves. They look for validation from others in order for them to, like, they don't know about themselves. They wait for others to tell them about themselves. Nobody is going to know you better than you. You know, so how can anybody else like love you or appreciate you or appreciate your existence if you don't even do that? If you're looking for them to do that and you don't even do it for yourself. Like, you got to have love for yourself, man. You got to like, no matter who's looking at you, no matter who you're talking to, no matter if you're with somebody or not, you got to have a level of love and respect for yourself. Because how can anybody else love you or appreciate your existence if you don't? Like, stop looking for validation from other people. Like, we all want levels of validation. We do. Like, but it shouldn't be like the deciding factor. It's like the validation and love that you're seeking should come from you first. And if somebody else wants to add on to it, fine. But I tell my wife that all the time. Like, my wife is like really quiet. Like, my wife don't really say too much, but I tell her all the time, like, I like what I do. I think that I'm good at it. But when my wife tells me that she's proud of me, or my wife tells me, oh, I enjoyed this, or my wife tells me, oh, you know what I'm saying, you did good, with this or whatever, like, it means more to me. But it don't mean like, oh, I'm gonna just shut down if she don't say anything. Like, that's why I say you have to have that love and respect and confidence in yourself first. And then that can, because when somebody doesn't tell you what you want to hear at that particular time, you still have enough love for yourself. Facts, if you don't respect yourself, you will never get the respect you deserve. Yep. I mean, and honestly, you may end up getting a certain level of respect, but you won't know how to receive it. Because, the main respect is learned through respecting yourself. How can you know what respect is if you don't respect yourself first? So that's why I say you got to have enough love for yourself. You got to have respect for yourself before anybody else can respect you the way you feel like you need to be respected. But I want to say thank you all for checking out the Therapy Couch podcast. Really do appreciate it, man. Nice turnout, man. And also, shouts out to everybody that made a comment. Shouts out to everybody that took a part in today's podcast. The Therapy House podcast is brought to you by BetterHelp.com. BetterHelp.com is a virtual therapy program, right? There's a link there down in the description. There's a questionnaire that you take, and what they do is they'll set you up with the right therapist virtually. You don't have to worry about going into an office. You don't have to worry about trying to find time to see somebody. They set you up with a person based on the questionnaire that you take. Look, I tell everybody, I suffer from anxiety and depression. I've dealt with it throughout, my young life, and I deal with it from time to time. And it's always important to always, take care of your mental health. There's some people out here that tell you, oh, man, you're going to be all right. But sometimes you need to talk to somebody. Sometimes you can't talk to your family members because, maybe they don't understand. Or maybe there's somebody out there that may not have anybody to talk to. That's why they set you up with the best person based on, once again, a questionnaire that you take. So check it out. Take the questionnaire. You sign up and they'll get you squared away with the right person, and in order to help you get on the road to good mental health, because that's important. That's extremely important. Like, I'm telling you, it's extremely important. You got to be able to take care of your mental health, because how can you take care of anybody else? You don't take care of yourself. So check out BetterHelp.com. Click on the link and find out more about BetterHelp. And I've been working with them for about a month now, man. I have to say, man, this is probably one of the best partnerships that I've been a part of, like, since I've been doing podcasting, because it's so near and dear to me, because, man, it's so important to have mental health. So check out the Therapy Couch podcast previous episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor FM. You can follow me on Twitter at TJAYJones8, and also keep it locked to the State of the Saints podcast network. You got podcasts like Therapy Couch, the Gumbo Pod Sports podcast, and of course, the State of the Saints podcast. All right, so subscribe to the channel. If you're into sports, if you're into mental health, if you're into pop culture, we got you covered here on the State of the Saints podcast network. Till next time, be happy and be healthy.